So for the cloud service side, we have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Then we are now going to talk about shared responsibility. So we are going to look at the responsibility of we, the users, the responsibility of Microsoft, and all. So let's go. So the first one now is infrastructure as a service. So let's use this infrastructure as a service now. So we can see from the diagram here. Let me use my laser pen, laser pointer. We can see from the diagram here now, we have all this makes up an infrastructure. When we say infrastructure, infrastructure is more or less like your local data center. Your local data center where you are hosting your resources. So in your local data center, the first thing you must have in your local data center is servers and storage. Servers and storage are very important because if you don't have a server and you don't have a storage, then you don't have a local data center. Then the next thing we'll look at is networking, firewall, and security. Firewall is very important, and we all know the cost of maintaining good network in our environment because you have to configure, do a lot of configuration, do a lot of things. While the next one is data center and physical plant building. So these are the infrastructure. If you look at all this, like imagining all these things, we'll be like, it's not better I just come and use Microsoft data center. That is if you are starting a business. So this infrastructure as a service is more or less like your servers. Microsoft now is telling you that if you want to use those servers now in the cloud, so Microsoft is giving you as a service. When we say anything as a service, more or less like come and use that service. So most of the cloud things you hear, service, service, service. So most of this service, more or less like they are telling you, okay, come and use our own. Instead of you to buy your physical server and configure your network and do your physical buildings. When we see physical buildings and plants, we know in our servers we need ACs. We need big ACs inside our server room. If you go to some server rooms, the place is very cold that if you even stay there for like 1 hour, you may get blocked. And those equipment, you pay for it. If you are using prepaid meter, you know how much is band A now and how much it costs. But in terms of using Microsoft platform, which is the infrastructure as a service, you don't pay for all that. You don't need all that. So in fact, you rent Microsoft servers. So in renting Microsoft servers, you can see from the slide. So you can create virtual machines. These virtual machines now is the servers that you have in your environment. While the next one, which is the storage is more or less like normally in a server, you have different slots for storage. Some people use RAID, they can use RAID 2, RAID 5, depending on the storage may be. But in this case, you don't need those local storage. Microsoft will give you the servers, they will give you the storage. You are using their infrastructure as a service and network and all. So these operations now you can get them from a cloud provider. So this is infrastructure as a service. So in infrastructure as a service, instead of you to go and buy your servers, Microsoft is telling you, okay, come and use our infrastructure. Don't have a separate place in your office where you put your servers and all. Instead, give that office to staffs. So come and use our own infrastructure. Come and rent it. So that's for infrastructure as a service. Let's go to the next one now. So if I'm to give an example of infrastructure as a service, it's more or less like maybe you go and buy a house, an empty house and nobody is living in. That's infrastructure as a service. Nothing. The house is just empty. You just go and rent it. That's how Microsoft is telling you, okay, come and rent our own. Come and use our own and serve your purpose. So let's go to the next one, which is platform as a service. So platform as a service now, automatically now, we still have, Microsoft is still telling you, okay, use our infrastructure. And if you have other platforms that you want to still run, then we are giving you the access to run them. Let's take, for instance, now, an example with the building I gave is more or less like a service apartment. So now, infrastructure as a service is an empty house that nobody is staying. You don't have chairs, you don't have anything. But a service apartment now is the one that comes with chair, ACs, and the rest. So in this situation now, Microsoft is giving you an environment whereby you can build and test your application. You can deploy software without focusing on managing the underlying infrastructure. So what it means is that we all know that in some environments, they host some of their applications in their environment. So that application now, anytime users want to access it, they always hit their data center to access the application. So what Microsoft is telling you that, okay, instead of you to host those applications locally, come and develop those applications in the cloud. They have tools for development, they have tools for database, and they have tools for business analytics. So they are telling you, okay, instead of you to be hosting those applications, like maybe hosting your database locally, come and host your database in the cloud. In Microsoft, they have services for MySQL, they have services for SQL, they have services for MongoDB. They are telling you, okay, instead of you to be hosting those databases locally in the cloud, okay, come and host them. Instead of you to be hosting them locally, come and host them in the cloud. So that's platform as a service. They are not just giving you the infrastructure, they are not giving you a platform, more or less like they are not just giving you a house, they are giving you chairs, they are giving you refrigerator, they are giving you different things that you use normally, that you use in your house. So they didn't just stop in the infrastructure. Now they are giving you a platform where you can host your application and even run a lot of things. When we go to the demo part, we are going to understand all this clearly. So now we'll go next. So the next one now is software as a service. So for software as a service now, you have the infrastructure, you have the platform, and you have the software. An example of this software as a service is cloud hosted application. A very good example of cloud hosted application is Microsoft 365, Google, all those Google applications like Google Meet, Google Drive. Those are software as a service. We know that organization most times they don't build those messaging application. So Microsoft is telling you, okay, come and we are not only giving you our infrastructure, we are giving you a platform. Then we are giving you software as a service. So an example of software as a service is an hotel. An hotel is an example of software as a service. Infrastructure as a service is a building whereby you don't have anything, no chairs, nothing. While platform as a service is a building where you have AC, you have more or less like your refrigerator. But in software as a service now, it's now on a higher scale, whereby aside giving you those things, they still manage them. You know, in a service apartment, you pay for a lot of things. You'll be the one that will manage how you use the things there. But in an hotel, you don't manage it. You have your receptionist. You can always call the receptionist. I want this. They will give you. Everything is already there. So Microsoft now is telling you that we have all the application. Order anyone you want. Use our application. They are giving you their software. Example of Microsoft software. Software is what a cloud provider built by themselves. So for Google now, they have different software that they have built. Like Gmail now is a software. It's a software that is built and hosted in Google data center. As in Google Meet is also a software. While for Microsoft, Outlook is a software. Teams is a software. SharePoint is a software. So they are telling you, okay, come and use our software. That's where all this cloud service match. Okay, to cut it and to bring it to